Strong Dads wants to thank 4Speed on 50 for sponsoring today's show. If you like classic cars, great food, and a taste of Americana, you have to visit 4Speed on 50's Diner, located on Route 50 in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Stop in today for a meal and an experience you won't soon forget at 4Speed on 50's Diner. Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merrill Hutchinson along with the Andy Dalton. Andy, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. You?
Doing good. Finally, it's been cold and miserable around here, but today the sun finally came out. This is, you're going to get so tired of me complaining about cold spring weather. It's just, Linda's like, just get over it. I'm like, no, I don't.
Is that where the desire to I want to go more warmer weather, and that's where the South comes in?
Yeah. That's what it is. I'm just warm weather. I don't know. I sweat like crazy, but I love to sweat.
Yep.
And being cold, I went out for a bike ride today. And it was only in the upper 50s, but I just don't like starting off and taking a few miles to get warm.
Yep.
I like sweating from the get-go. Anyway, I'm just being a sis.
I just need the sun. Even if it's chilly, if I have the sun, I'll be okay. It's when it's cloudy and chilly, you ruin my day.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah, and that's what we've had here for the last several days. So finally getting over some of that. So everything good with you? You know, we're still bringing you on board here and you joined us at Strong Dads. So Strong Dads, for you guys out there who are listening, you've heard me talk about it, but this is our Strong Dads workout. We do that every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. at our office in St. Leon, and we do a 45-minute workout and then a 45-minute, I'll just call it a Bible study. And you joined. I didn't know you were coming.
Yeah, randomly
you showed up.
But I'm glad you said 8 o'clock. I thought 9. I was up early and I was just sitting on my couch with my kids. I'm like, oh, I got time. I don't have to leave right now.
And then a cup of coffee.
Yeah, something prickled. Are you sure it's 9? I think Catherine might have said something like that.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's at 9?
Yeah.
And so I was like, let me check. I went to Facebook. I went back a couple posts and I was like, oh, see you at 8 a.m. I was like, no, it was 8:02 at that time. And I wasn't fully dressed. I got to go now.
Yeah. But here's the news he's not sharing. So we do a once a month challenge. And it's usually push-ups or pull-ups, and this month we were culminating the month with we used our kettle bar. And we did what we call the lateral laydowns, which is really kind of a athletic endurance strength combination move, right?
Yep.
So you got to control this kettlebell or kettle bar. You got to control it. You got to have endurance. You got to have strength. And you blew everybody out. You've never even touched a kettle bar, and you blew everybody away. They were pissed.
Sorry, guys.
You may not be invited back. No.
He comes in you're not doing it anymore. You're done.
Yeah.
That was good. It was awesome to touch that for the first time. I've seen you have promotionals with it and videos, but I've never I was like, this thing is phenomenal, and the way that you that ball and joint as it's in the base was really cool. And so I was actually surprised. I woke up 2 days later, my biceps.
Oh, yeah?
You said your glutes are going to go out? No, my biceps. I don't know if that was a part of the
you were
row
rowing.
at the end.
Yeah, you were doing the row with it. Yeah. Well, you're super strong in the legs to begin with, so they probably didn't feel it as much, whereas the arms, you were touching it.
Yep.
So, I was pretty, the next day, down through the glutes is where, and whenever I do that, that's where I get it, down in the glutes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you came in, you did a great job. We had a good talk. I think as you guys are hearing, man, you're all invited.
Yeah.
And I think one thing you need to know is don't worry about what kind of shape you're in. Everybody gets to work out at their own pace.
Yeah.
A little bit of ego sometimes gets involved when guys start to challenge each other, but for the most part,
in a good way.
Yeah, it's good and it's healthy.
Yeah.
But I appreciate what follows after.
Yeah.
We had guys you get in the Bible study circle sort of thing and just start going to town, right? Everybody there's got issues and trying to figure out how do we do better in the home and in the marriage. So,
or the ability to learn what other people say and take the same scripture verse and the way that you interpret it and the way the Holy Spirit gives it to you is different than me.
Right.
I never got it that way. That's a really good take on that, Merrill. Or, Dan and whoever else was talking at the time, like, that's a really good insight that I didn't see from that perspective, whether it's different season or different eyes and experience. That same verse can be taken in a different context, which I loved.
How we understand it and how we apply it. Yep. I mean, I think that brings the idea of, Scripture is living and breathing, right? So it never goes out of style. No. It's always applicable because you take it in different ways, and it just goes, oh, wow, yeah, this hit me today. Yep. So pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Let me thank our sponsors, and then we're going to get into our topic today. You ready?
Yep.
All right. We want to thank Quality Auto Mart, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and 4Speed on 50 Diner. Guys, we want to thank all of those sponsors, and we want to thank them for just a willingness to get behind and support not just Strong Dads, but rock-solid families, allowing us to do the work that we do, helping marriages, helping individuals, helping men out there. We think it's a great mission, and they believe in it too, so we just want to thank them. So if you're doing any business with them at all, just thank them for their contribution to allowing us to do what we do. Also, just want to thank all you guys out there listening. And all you ladies, we know that a lot of the moms and wives listen to this and say, hey, honey, you should listen to this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And so we want to thank all you ladies as well. And please, the biggest compliment we have is a sharing of the show. When somebody says, man, this could really help somebody else. So please keep sharing the show. Give us the 5-star ratings that boost us up on the search engines so that we're easier to find. And let's just keep it rolling. So. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So today we are talking, as we talked about Strong Dads earlier in the workout, we're talking about our workouts and how we approach workouts. These are our physical workouts, how we approach our presence in the gym, what we do in the gym, what we're looking to get out of it. And so we're just going to explore this whole thing, coming at it from different angles. Yeah. You were a college football player, right? Yep. And so you had a different dose of how you worked out then. I was a swimmer and early on a triathlete. And so very different ways of working out. Oh, yeah. But as we've aged and come through different parts of life, like how we've modified or changed. So that's going to be a big part of our conversation. Hopefully some different points that we bring up will make some sense to you guys. And maybe you even do things that we would love to hear. So feel free to email anything, suggestions that you have. Yeah. So let me ask you.
Sure.
What's your workout?
Well,
what's your go-to? What are you looking to do?
Well, it's one of two. It's either going to be some sort of cardio base or it'll be some sort of strength base. And the way that my workouts have morphed over the years is more to the endurance realm versus football was strong, powerful, explosive, and then repeat and do it again. Versus endurance, like how long can I sustain something? And so if anybody's ever heard of hybrid athletes and people like Nick Bare, I read a book, The Hybrid Athlete by Alex Viada, that really started piquing my interest of like, can you be strong and run a marathon?
Yeah.
And so I do 3 different strength workouts a week and then probably about 3 different types of cardio. I'll run, I'll bike, or our local wrestling I teach. And so our wrestling room has ski erg, Echo rogue bike. They've got like concept rowers. They've got a slide board, which I love the slide board. And so, and then just doing different things like that, different modalities to, I'm not doing just running, only running and lifting. I want to be able to be versatile.
Yeah. So how long will you be in a workout? Right. So you go in there, are you looking at a 2-hour venture in the gym? Are you looking at 20 minutes? Like what's going to work for you?
Yeah. Right now, we've got 3 young kids. Youngest is 2. And
okay, so like 5 minutes. Right?
About maybe 10, 20. It is like, okay, are they napping? Are they sleeping? I'm gone. Or actually, it's probably like 3:50 in the morning is what time I have to get up to get my workout done.
Yeah, so you're better than me. Those morning workouts are brutal to me.
Yeah, well, that's what pre-workout's for.
Yeah.
So I'll wake up early, and probably 45 minutes is if I'm not training for something, 45 minutes. And that book, the hybrid athlete, spoke about that. There's a balance of a scale, if you want to look at it that way, where okay, you've got time and then intensity.
Yep.
And so when you're in the gym, if I'm training I've done one marathon, I'd love a bucket goal is to qualify for the Boston. And then another one would be run an ultra, like a 50 mile.
Yeah.
I don't know, 100 miles, you can count me out, but I'll take 50. And so okay, well, if you're spending hours, but it's not high intensity on the road, you just need time.
Right.
Then you'll spend low time in the weight room, but it's super high intense.
Yeah.
Like you're like 3x2 at like 90% of those 2 reps. It is hard. It is trying to push some weight, but in and out, 45 minutes, get done.
Yeah.
And then you got 2 hours on the road.
Gotcha. Okay. So here's what's kind of interesting. Like, over the course of years, really, there's not a whole lot new. Yeah. I mean, young guys will be like, oh, man, like CrossFit, that's the greatest thing ever. And it's like, nothing really new under the sun. There are different levels in terms of what you focus on and what the greatest bulk of your time is. But when I was a swimmer, we had a very innovative swim coach. Just was always like thinking about how he could do something different or better.
Yeah.
And, it's hard as a swimmer because swimming and wrestling are both of those groups of athletes are kind of crazy. Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. Because wrestlers are getting beat up and swimmers are staring at a black line all day long. Right.
Yep.
And working out. Like most sports, you're involved in doing a talent or skill, and then you do a little workout to, supplement.
Yeah.
Swimming is nothing but working out, conditioning the entire time. And wrestling's a lot like that, and so it's just different. But we would go in and have morning swim practice, okay, hour and a half, whatever that would be before school. And then after school, he would try to say, okay, now we're going to do a 2 hour, okay? So you'd be getting 3+ hours of water time.
Yeah.
And he felt like it was very important to do weight training. Yeah. Well, when are we going to do that?
You're going to add more hours to the day?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we got to get these kids home. So he started years ago. We would use the old Universal machine. Okay. And the Universal machine was multi-station, right? Like this was the original functional rack system, right?
Yeah,
like you had like, I don't know how many, 9 stations around, and he'd say, guys, we have a half hour.
Yeah.
And we got 15 guys here.
Okay.
All of you get on a station. We'll put a few rest stations in the middle, maybe some push-up stations, okay? And we started doing HIIT training long before there was everything called HIIT training. I'm serious. Like HIIT, what is all this HIIT stuff? Oh, we were doing HIIT stuff back in 1979. Okay. But he called it, this whole mode of working out was speed workout.
Okay.
That's what we call, we're doing a speed workout today.
Yeah.
And what it involved was, guys, we're going to hit the go button, and he would either set a 30-second or a 40-second timer, and then he'd give you 10 or 15 seconds to transition to the next station.
Yeah.
All right. And the goal was you're going to drop down to, I forget his percentages, but like probably 15% of what you could do max, 15, 20% lightweight.
Yeah.
And for 30 or 40 seconds, whatever he set the timer, you are going to burn that weight. You are going to move that thing, okay, as fast as you can, keeping form. You're not going to get that sloppy. And Andy, what it did, first off, like it conditioned us like crazy.
I'm sure.
Just because it conditioned strength, but it also got a cardio component going. Yep. In there. That was a little different than what we were getting in the water.
Yeah.
Right. And we would only do a speed workout one day a week. And that was usually like on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Monday we would come in and we would do a moderate lift.
Yeah.
Okay. So he would switch Mondays and Fridays, but it might be like a moderate lift. You might do a 3, 10 or a 12, 10, 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Wednesdays, you would do that speed workout. And it was the dreaded speed workout,
it's
right?
Wednesday.
Because it was intensity. It was all about intensity.
Yeah.
And then Fridays, depending on what we had going on the weekend, it would either be an easy day or it would be a heavy day. Like early in the season, it would be a heavy day. Like
knowing you didn't have something the next day.
You got nothing going on. And so he was doing these combinations, this specialization of different areas long before, I read any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I have come to I've always used that sort of mentality. Like I always put some intensity, like what we did with the lateral laydowns is like an intensity thing. We did that for 2 minutes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. But at the end, nobody's walking through the park. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm smoked.
I'm trying to catch your breath.
Yeah. And so I've always used that. I've always then used like a moderate day, like of a rest day, not rest in the sense of doing nothing, but rest and like, let's work on technique or something like that, even stretching. And then I'll do a day that's heavier.
Yes.
And sometimes I'll use the kettle bar for that, but I'll just throw a ton of weight on there and move slower and just put my body under strain over a longer period of time. Anyway, so that's kind of what I've moved to. I mentioned this the other day in our workout, something that's changed with me, and I think it confirmed it more with me when Nick and Zach, our 2 older sons, your guys that you hang out with, were Navy SEALs. And, you know, when I first got the vision of Navy SEALs, I think when most people think of it, they think of these big old jacked guys. Well, you know both my guys, right? You're built just like them, right? Like, and so they're not like these massive individuals. And what you just came to realize, and they came to realize, it's really about how much work you can get done, how well you can sustain it. These big guys, and there are occasionally big guys in the SEAL teams, but not very often.
No.
Big guys die.
You got a lot to move.
Yeah, they got a lot to move. They can't do the runs. They don't do the swims well. And so these guys who are like, 5'8" to 6'2", and they're moderate muscular build, who can run and swim and lift, but do work over a prolonged time, those are your studs. And so it's all about work capacity.
You don't have those big tanks sitting in there like,
that's right.
I can be explosive, but I need a big downtime. I need a lot of rest to recover.
And there's a place for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, that's not real life.
No.
And so I've always thought that the athletes and the people I work out with, if they say, well, we just want to work out, I will always push them towards, because I don't really train anybody to be bodybuilding. I don't train power lifters, right? And that's perfectly fine to do those types of workouts. But for me, it's like I'm working with middle-aged to older people who still want to go out and function every day and to do well. And so I always put a component on work capacity. How long can you do what you're doing? If you're going to go out and rake leaves and you can only do it for 3 minutes and you're done, you're not in shape.
No.
So anyway, that's a lot of my thought on that.
I love it. I love the idea too. Like you hear, there's a guy that I follow, functional movements, I think, or functional movement patterns. But one of the things he talks about in the video I've watched for him, he's like, what are we as humans built to do better than anything? It's a rotation. Look at baseball, look at throwing. If we do anything, running, it's a form of rotation around our trunk. And he said, give me, and he would ask a random person, give me 3 movements in a gym that you do that you rotate. Bench press, no. Back squat, no. You can name all these, like biceps, no. He's like, there's not a lot of trunk. He's like, you very, very few. And so he would incorporate way more rotational movement strength. And so I picked up multiple of the movements. Like, that makes sense just for longevity. I remember I drove a summer for UPS. We talked about it on last show. And they had this like warm up little thing. And they knew that I had that background of exercise science. Like, hey, take us to a warm up. Very first one, lunge twist. They said, we want to twist. What do you mean? Your back is meant to twist. What do you mean you don't twist? That's how back injuries happen, because you don't twist. And so it really confuddled me and confused me. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And I didn't have an answer at the time. I was a younger kid. I was like, that didn't make any sense. I couldn't wrap my head around, like, you're supposed to move that way. It's natural. And so that's one of the things.
But to do it right, and so like I came on, I was working out long before the functional movement craze came in, and I was watching these functional movement specialists. I'm like, well, that's not functional. Even a deadlift is not functional.
No.
How many people straight up lift heavy in a single plane?
Not a lot.
Yeah, like I'm lifting a bunch of logs off the ground. I'm moving to the left. I'm moving to the right. And so it's like, that way, that's not functional. And that's why the kettlebell, not to make this a commercial with the kettlebell, the kettlebell is all about you doing truly functional lifting. The rotations that's what that thing's based on. And so we put rotation in everything. The workout that we did, the test, the challenge, was a rotation.
Yep.
You had to go over. You have to get off plane.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. I call it off plane.
Yep.
Get out of your straight planes, go over and pull. And so I think that's real important in all of our workouts that we use functional movement in the right way. Like to me, functional movement is how you're going to lift the gallon of milk out of the back of your car that you just got from the grocery store.
Yes.
Not many people are going to go, okay, is my back aligned? Okay, we're ready. 1, 2, 3. That's not how we're going to do this.
Tighten my core
Yeah. There's actually a few memes and stuff that have made fun of trainers, like, okay, now tighten your core. Now we're gonna lift that salt shaker. Lift it. You got it. It's like, come on.
There's an old meme of like a big jacked bodybuilder carrying a bunch of groceries. This is why I lift. Trying to carry them all in. Like, can I carry every bag in at one time?
That's what we do with all those plastic bags, right? Like, how many can I slide up my arm? Yeah.
Farmer carries for
I got
for
24 bags. That's my record. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So what is something in your workout that you've changed your mindset on, that you used to do because you believed in it? And I say this because just like to our conversation, I was a science teacher by trade.
Yeah.
And science kind of used to be like, oh, well, the science says. And I've come to realize there is so much bad science out there.
Yes.
That you go, well, this used to be like, and I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
And this is what I've stopped doing, one of mine. It used to always be squatting and keep your knees behind your toes or in line with your toes.
Yep.
And I am convinced now that that's why I've had 2 knees replaced.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of knees over toes guy?
Yes.
Yeah. I follow
Ben Patrick.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so
we got to get him on the show. Ben, if you're watching this, we got to get
Well, and so here I got one knee replaced.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, I'm like, I got like all this new hardware, but my knees are still killing me.
Yeah.
And so then I got the other one replaced, thinking, okay, well, and so I came into Ben Patrick's work, knees over toes.
Yep.
And he's like, no, like you've got to strengthen the knee all the way through its range of motion.
Yes.
You're only, and when you go downstairs, you literally put your knees out over your toes.
Yep.
And so going downstairs was killer. I was like 95 years old, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm holding on to both handles, and I'm like, I just need to get downstairs.
Just go ahead and pass me. I'll be back in a second.
And so I started thinking about how bad some of the science was saying, oh, no, don't ever take that to that range of motion, or don't put weight out there, you'll crush the knee. And I'm like, again, there is some common sense, like maybe you don't want to go lift your heaviest weight, your record weight with your knees out over. Maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you need to strengthen that knee front to back. And so now all of my leg workouts involve that full range, right? I'll do a single leg split,
ATG, split squat.
Yeah, split squats, knees out over in front of toes.
Oh, yeah.
And I started running again.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, seriously, I haven't run in 6 years.
Wow.
And I completed a 5-mile run last weekend.
Woo!
And I told Linda, I'm like, I'm just kind of blown away.
You're going to keep it up? You can't stop me now.
Exactly. And I'm like, here I am. I'm really upset that I just bought all the science. Saying, oh, no, and in the meantime, and again, it may have worked for some people, but it didn't work for me.
You could look at babies. I said, we got a 2-year-old. She squats all the time. You know how she squats? There's one, too. Her hips are not perfectly straight.
Oh, yeah.
They're a little bit at an angle. And if you look at the hip joint, the way that your femur goes into your pelvis, it is at a little bit of an angle.
Yeah.
It is not perfectly 90 degrees. And so I bought that. Your toes got to be 90. Your knees got to be 90. Your hips. And then that whole... And so I'm just looking at her. That looks so comfortable.
Yeah. And are you going to correct her? Get your toes straight.
She's sitting in this position that I can't get into. In there for 5 minutes just playing in there. And I'm like, that's right there.
Yeah.
She was born and with the perfect ability to move 4-range of motion, a little bit, her toes are just a little bit outside. Her feet are flat, her knees are forward, her hips are in that perfect position. I'm like, right there. Yeah. She was born in functional position, and we wreck it and ruined it. And the science behind all of why not to. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you start walking backwards?
I do. I walk. So I walk. Now I slowed that down a little bit for time's sake. So, but 10 minutes backwards. 3 days a week.
Oh yeah.
I do it on the treadmill.
Oh yeah.
And I do it on an incline. So I do it on the treadmill without the motor running. So I'm
push
driving
that belt yourself.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And so I've done that. I do a lot of the knees, split squat, knees over toes. I do all that kind of stuff. And just spending some time getting into deep squats and sitting there.
Yes.
Right? Like, so, it's not unusual to see me watching TV in the evening and just being in a deep squat.
Yeah, the couch stretch. I will sit in a couch stretch up against the wall. Our TV is over in a corner, and I'll just, and she's like, I'll have to use like a pillow. Okay, can I get that pillow? What do you want the pillow for? So my foot can go against the wall.
They're crushing it. Yeah, so that's been a huge one for me that I've changed and recognized that I've got to see this differently and I got to change how I was thinking. So how about you? Have you changed anything?
Yeah, I was I think we were, BFS, I think was the big one in high school.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
Bigger, faster, stronger. And it was, I think our three main lifts were like bench press, back squat, and deadlift. And is that about all we did? And not that back squat, I don't think any of these are wrong to do, but if my sole focus on my quad or glute strength was just back squatting, I've seen people like, my back is just wrecked. Like, where is the Zercher squat or the split squat and the hack squat and all these different types of squats that are targeting, and again, talking about functional, they're in different range of motions and hitting you. If you've got to reach out over here, you've got to hold something in front of you for a long period of time. I'll hold a sandbag or a Quickcrete concrete 50-pound bag. Like, I'm holding it like this, like, oh, this is the exact Zercher squat position that I was. And so that was mine. And then the second thing is I don't max out.
Oh, okay.
I will lift heavy weight to like 2 or 3, but I never do a single. I'm just doing one rep max out. The injury risk is not a high enough reward for me to justify.
Okay.
And so I'm not like back in college, it was you're back squatting 405 and I'm like, I got this. Let's go. Start slapping each other on the back. Like, I got 410. What are you getting, 415? And you're like, I don't care about you, Mike. Let's go again. And so that egotistic, like you talked about, the ego driven, it just doesn't justify it for me anymore. If I've tweaked my back a little bit and I'm like, oh, my 2-year-old daughter wants me to hold her and I can't, And so I will lift heavy to a certain percentage and I will do all of my percentages based on a 2 or 3 rep max. And so whatever that I'm following at the time, if it's heavy, one thing I don't do anymore, not that I don't want to, I don't do is explosive stuff. Like you talk about the
plyometrics type.
I don't jump. I don't do bounds. I don't I'll train other people in that way. And I know that they're beneficial and great. And I don't know if it's just time or whatever the case is. That is one thing that's fallen off my workout.
That's an interesting point. So, I don't know. Let's see. I'm 62. So I would say probably right around 50. I was still running a little bit. Knees were starting to bother me pretty good by then. And I was like, what? I have no sprint at all. I never was a sprinter. Okay. But I had like no spring anymore in my step. And I was like, man, what happened there? And then, of course, things deteriorated, and then the whole running thing just kind of went bye-bye. And what I have come to realize, now I am actually doing some plyometric work. Because essentially what happened, it was kind of interesting, too, and you'll notice this probably, my foot was always about a 10, size 10 shoe, okay? And within probably a year or so, all of a sudden, like, none of my size 10s are fitting. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And I went to 11s, finally, 10 and a half and into 11s. And what happened is your arch just slowly flattens out. And you didn't grow. What happened is your foot flattened
got fatter.
Out. And so I lost my arch. Because I was not doing anything to maintain that tendon strength and muscular strength down through the Achilles. And so I have brought back some plyometric work, some of the knees over toes. That's all. I mean, there's so much of that explosiveness to get back into the feet. So, and I do think that helps us resist injury if we do it cautiously, right? If you're doing plyometrics 3, 4, 5 times a week, you're going to get smoked. But I would strongly encourage, like, don't lose sight of that, because all of a sudden one day you'll be like, I can't sprint anymore.
I can't
what
jump,
happened? Yeah.
So. I saw when we were working out too that you have some either barefoot or wide toe box shoes too.
Yeah.
Saw them.
I use a Zero shoe.
Yep.
All right. Not to make I should get paid for that. I just gave them a little plug.
Two shameless plugs here. Buy your kettle bar and Zero shoes now. And Ben Patrick, you got to come on.
Yeah. Well, and I did that. So I came, just like everything happens. And again, we could go into running shoes too. Mm-hmm. So, we wear so much padding around our feet that your feet lose track of the proprioceptive sense that it takes to get the foot to respond to the environment. Yeah. And so it just becomes kind of dead. Yeah. And I don't like working out barefooted. There's just something about me that I'm ready to drop something on my foot. Yeah. So I went
step on a small rock that you can't handle now. As a kid, you could.
Yeah. So I don't like the barefoot. I know a lot of guys do. I just whatever. Yeah. So I went to that, but then I went too far. I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, like these are great because Zero shoe companies talks about running in them and everything.
Yeah, doing everything."
That does not work for me. You got to be a bigger stud than me.
You got no.
There's nothing there, and you're like, oh my gosh, every step. And so, I ran a mile or two, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Feels like you're slapping the ground each time that you run.
So then I realized, okay, and so now I wear pretty much a Zero shoe all the time. Yep. But when I run. I wear a heavy padded shoe.
Like Ultras?
I used to wear Ultras. I did switch out Ultras. I don't want to slam, but I have my reasons for that.
Okay.
But
that's another episode.
Yeah. Went to a higher density, thicker sole, and I actually am loving it.
Awesome.
Like I told you, I finally ran a 5-mile run. Yeah. I've not been able to move that bar at all, that needle. So I'm starting to realize, no, you have to be appropriate for what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You don't sit around all day and 2-inch thick padding because your feet go dumb and numb.
Yeah, just rely on that padding.
Yeah. Yep. So you got to go with the thinner sole so your feet can stay strong on the day in and day out stuff. But when you're getting ready to go out there, it's just like, you don't have to practice every day in football with pads. But when you're getting ready to go hit hard, you better put some pads on.
Yep. Yeah, I made that mistake the hard way. So I've got some Vivos on actually now. Okay. And that's my daily walking around shoe, which is like nothing. You can roll that thing in a ball. Yeah. There's nothing there. And I actually have toe spacers at home that I'll use.
I've got those.
I want my feet to be.
I need Linda. You need to say this to Linda because she thinks I'm nuts. Like, oh my gosh, you got a regular physical therapy department in your closet.
Catherine looks at me. She's like, "Are you trying to paint your toenails?" Yeah. The toe spacers. No.
Maybe.
You jealous? I don't know where I saw this, but if you're building a house, this is the very first thing that you're putting the most time and effort into, and the first thing you build is the foundation. Right. I mean, if that is messed up, I don't care how good your roof is, that's going to be out of alignment, and that's going to be jacked up. And so, if my feet, which I am on every single day, if I'm not having that as strong as it can be, that's the first bridge. The arch is the first bridge you step up onto every morning. And so I don't know I was listening to. I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I started diving into that realm, and I do Ultras I'll wear for my running, and most of my shoes I'm getting are going to be wide toe box, minimalist, barefoot, let my feet do as much work as possible, which comes with two things. One, my feet are really sore and tired, and so I'll roll them out in the mornings when I wake up. They wake up kind of tight. My calves are tight. So every morning I've got a routine where I got a lacrosse ball in our couch, and I'll wake up and I'll roll my feet out, and then we've got a slant board in the garage. And so I'll wake up, do some slant board, and just get my feet wake before I walk on them all day. Yeah. But going back to your no padding, I didn't realize this. So the only marathon I've ran was the Hatfield and McCoy marathon down in eastern Kentucky, West Virginia. Okay. Which wasn't bad. Super, super hilly.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
And I like hills though. I enjoyed that thoroughly, except one piece.
Going downhill.
Going downhill sucks. This lady was sitting, going downhill. I'm just like leaning back, like, stomping. Yeah. And the lady's like, "You're doing great." I was like, "Do you have I forget what I said, like a scooter or something like that. Yeah. And I can ride this hill down on?" Because I was just backpedaling basically. But I wore like 5mm. Yeah. Ultras, and that was all my training, and I didn't realize it. My ankles Like I couldn't move the next day.
Yeah.
I was a little sore, like normal marathon soreness. Like, oh
right.
man, I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
It was my ankles and my feet. I was like, can I get ibuprofen now? Can I get an ice in my feet?
Yeah, you destroyed them.
I didn't realize that. And I think I got some sort of tendonitis because now I've got, I like 25 millimeter R's, and I think I might get another one. And like, I just can't handle that pounding right now.
Yeah.
I got to work through that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it's you got the right thing for the right job, right? If you're only going to go out and run a mile or two or just walk around, you just don't need a lot.
No.
But man, if you're going to be pounding that long, so I did. I went to the high foam, and man, it's just making a world of difference to me.
Oh,
so,
I bet.
Yeah.
We should have had this talk 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think of all the different cycles and patterns of different things I bought into over the years. I'm like, some of that was just so, and it doesn't take much to sell, right? I mean, if it's marketed right and somebody's got a lot of energy behind it, you're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And let's do this show again 10 years from now. And we'll be like, can you remember we talked about, because it'll change again, right? One last thing.
Okay.
What about, so we talk about the different types of workouts we like to do and why we like to do them.
Yeah.
What about nutrition, supplements? What do you lean in a particular direction on any of those subjects?
That one, so we spent quite a bit of time in college talking about those kinds, but, as a football player, there was a huge long list of things you couldn't take, and anything you could had to have a certain symbol on them, and certain kinds of pre-workouts. But the main three that I think if I were to advocate for any of them are, number one, protein. I think you've got to fuel your muscles that you are demanding something from, but with protein.
The building of the muscle.
Yeah, the building of the muscle. And if you're demanding something, also you got to stay hydrated. So like within that caveat of like, I think protein's great, but the first step in protein synthesis is water intake. And so if you don't have enough water in there, you're not going to be able to fuel the building blocks of those amino acids for the protein. So I would say protein and electrolytes and plenty of water. And then I am a big fan of pre-workout in the right way.
Okay.
I think
what would that be? What's the right way?
I think like I'm not super, super big on the caffeine stimulant and like I forget the one, the beta alanine that makes your head scratch. Like I love that in college, but I was like, I don't need this. And so Jay Cutler has one. It's got 120 milligrams of caffeine, so it's not super juiced up, but it's got some other neurofactors and other things that like, I don't know, I've found really good success with that. I forget what it's called. But that one isn't like a super, I don't know what the C4 was, I think, was when it was a college. It was just, it made you feel like,
it's all jacked up.
Run through the wall.
Yeah.
And so the right kind of pre-workout, I think, is good. And again, not super stimulated because you want to feel like you can crush the weight. But, if I'm waking up early and I want to go sustain that work, work capacity throughout the day, I want a good total body, some good vitamin Bs and some, I forget the neurofactor thing that he had in it, and then the last one would be creatine. I think creatine monohydrate is good. And I think especially in recovery, talking about that for people when they want to really push some workouts and sustained, capacities of the work, I think the creatine is good. But all of that to be said, I think we had kind of talked about this earlier, you will throw all of those supplements out the window if you're not doing the basics right. And by the basics, I mean, like, are you sleeping? Because you can go and push a workout like, yeah, man, I did the most I've ever lifted in deadlift, and then I went and ran 3 miles, and then after that, I felt really good at home, and so I did another extra WOD.
Right.
And like, okay, cool. You just destroyed your body. Where are you recovering and charging that battery back up? Yeah. So if you're not sleeping right, if you're not eating like what Chad Johnson, was on a long time ago, like I eat McDonald's.
Yeah.
Or like DK Metcalf's like, I don't know, bag of Skittles.
Yeah.
Okay, just so the average people know that doesn't work. You need some chicken and some carbohydrates. And so I think if you're, like I want to go into supplements, I want to get an extra boost. The first thing I would say is your basic building blocks better be good.
Yeah. Yeah, they always say you can't supplement yourself to good health.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
You got to do it through your regular diet, and I've always been a big workout fan. I've been a very average nutrition guy. I get nutrition.
Yep.
But the flesh speaks sometimes louder than the brain.
Donuts.
And certain things. Sweets have always been a struggle for me.
Yeah.
But eating good quality is first and foremost, and that protein. We have been much more conscious around here in the last couple of years of being, let's get the good protein in and hit it from that. You're not going to be real impressed with me with my pre-workout.
Okay.
Coffee.
Black?
Just
straight black coffee.
No, I'll put a sweetener or something
thank you.
in it. Yeah.
You're not that cowboy.
That's funny you even mentioned that. So when Nick and Zach were in college and stuff, I'd go to visit them, and they're all like straight up black coffee. and they're making fun of me. Oh, you want like sugar or something? Like,
please?
Yeah, because that black stuff's like nasty. And so they were teasing me. I'm like, I'll tell you what. I'll do this straight up black stuff. Yeah. And so I drank straight up black for probably a year or so. Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, I got used to it.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you I ever loved it. No. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I am sick of these boys running my life.
I'm putting my French vanilla cream. Get my hazelnut.
So I took a stand and I said, you know what? I'm putting cream and sugar.
Give me iced mocha frappe latte. Whatever.
Yeah.
I
don't really care.
Yeah.
So no, but I do take it black with like a sweetener or something in it.
Yeah.
But that's I'll drink that before a workout. It just seems to kind of get me going enough with the caffeine and so that's kind of what gets me going. So
and that too, I think like when we were trying to figure out when we could do the way that Hanover where I played, their gym wasn't like they didn't have a football only athletics gym. It was athletics, but you could have like treadmills at one side of it. And so if we wanted to really heavy hammer in music and let's get after it, you're talking rah. It was early in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, also, so early in the morning meant no college guy wants to wake up at 5 o'clock and go work out.
Yeah.
They were up till 3 o'clock playing Call of Duty.
Right. Yeah.
And so for us to we got to get through this, it was like like clockwork. It was pre-workout before and chocolate milk after. It was what we did on the way to go and getting our protein over at the cafeteria. But so that was where that started. And then I've just found out that I've just enjoyed that certain moderations of caffeine and pre-workouts done correctly.
Yeah. So, I have to try with that one you're talking about. You say Jay Cutler's?
Yeah, Jay Cutler. He's got a couple non-stimulant one, and he's got the one that's got per one scoop is 120. And it's pretty good.
Okay, good. So. You mentioned creatine. I have become a believer in creatine. I didn't take any of those types of supplements. I don't know. I was always kind of afraid of messing with the whole steroid thing. And then over many years, finally, I'm just like, I'm going to try the creatine.
Yeah.
And I think I shared with you earlier, at first I was like, wow, what's the big deal? I don't get it. But I've been done with heavy lifting for quite a while. But I noticed it in my cycling more specifically because I wasn't able to run much with climbing hills.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And so it was just I was never a great hill climber. And one summer in particular, I was like, wow, I'm starting to beat some of these guys up the hill.
Yeah.
And I started clocking some times on some different hill segments that I had never clocked. And here I am, at that time, just approaching 60. And it didn't even dawn on me. I just thought, well, I'm just having a great day or something.
Yeah.
And I finally connected that, no, this is what the creatine's doing.
Yeah.
And so I've stuck with the creatine. And that's really where I do see it. And what is cool is just the fact that you're climbing better, I have always enjoyed hills. Yeah. Now I love them.
Yeah.
Because now, so you overall get stronger because you enjoy your performance. So you work it out harder.
Yes,
So I think there's this positive loop that
feedback
gets
loop.
fed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I do use creatine. I would not, recommend it for everybody if you don't know why you're going to use it. But for me, it's been good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear. You're going into we said 60 at the time that you were doing this. You know, you don't hear a lot of people like continuing to have improvements going into that later. But I think that's a tribute to consistency.
Yeah.
You know, consistency can lead to these results later on, which then, like you said, a positive feedback loop. Like you're excited to go back to ride again, which then continues that health over long term, like work capacity over lifetime. Can we sustain this? And I think we had talked before, like, why do we work out too? I remember in high school, my dad was able to still wrestle with me. Now, not very long. His capacity wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it's like, I can go for about a minute. Yeah. So I've got that, like, why do I want to continue to squat, even though squatting isn't the most fun thing to do in the world? Why do I want to go run? Why do I want to put myself on the bike? Not just because I love it, but because I want when my son, who is only 6 now, so if I want him in 12 years to say, Dad, let's go roll around a bit. I'm like, all right, dude, let's go roll around.
Go. Yeah. I always loved wrestling, and I missed out on that part because I had multiple neck surgeries, and I was just like, no. But all the other part I'd love to do with them, right? Yes. Riding the bike, working the weights, doing all that stuff. But I was like, no, first guy torques my neck wrong.
Snap your hip.
Yeah, I don't need that. So I shied away from that. But, you know, like one of the coolest things for me is like last fall, loaded up the bikes, met our oldest son, Nick, and did a weekend of mountain bike riding.
That is awesome.
And I couldn't beat him, but I could kind of hang, you know, and it was just cool, you know, here at my age, and we're out just pounding it, having a great time and camping and stuff. So those are the types of things that I want to be able to continue to do as I get older, right? Like winning races and doing that kind of stuff, that's long gone. I don't need that. But, well, hey, hopefully that was some good talk for you guys. Hopefully you got little tidbits of information about things that maybe you can take away from this, whether it was trying a different workout or stopping doing something that you bought and is not giving you the return on investment like you thought. Hopefully just having some fun, right? What's the best workout? The one you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Right? So
especially when you're with other people. And so if you guys are watching this and want to either talk to us more about stuff like this, or even, like you said, have some comments or questions, and 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings at Strong Dads, that'd be a really great time to have some conversations.
Come on, just show up. It's at 7484 Christina Drive is where our office is. So 8 a.m. It's over in St. Leon, Indiana. We still have a little bit of room left in that gym. We can move some furniture around in there, and we can make it happen. So, all right. You got anything else you want to say?
No.
You good?
We're good.
I think we covered a lot. All right. Guys, we want to continue to thank you for listening to our show. Please share the show. Please continue to give us those 5-star ratings. We, again, want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Quality Auto Mart, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and 4Speed on 50 Diner. And so there's going to be a lot more of Andy here on these shows, so hang in there. He's got wisdom coming out of his ears he can't wait to share. So can't wait to get into more of that. So let's go out there and let's be a strong dad.
Yep.
Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart and Service for being a proud sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. Started in 1985 and going strong for all these years. Recently, Quality Auto Mart has transitioned from owners of Mark and Nancy Repke to longtime employee Fred and Lorene Venus. For all your automotive needs and golf cart needs, check out Quality Auto Mart, located across from Indian Lakes on Highway 46 outside of Batesville, Indiana. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.